As of today, it is March 13th, 2025. We are already the third month of the year. What the hell is going on? I feel like we just did our first show and it's just blown by. But you know what makes it better? Talking all things horror, indie horror. You guys know, probably sick of me talking about how much I love indie horror. So today's a really special show. This is a show that we've been trying to work out for a little bit of time, but our guest is working really hard on special projects that he's working on, which we'll talk about today. So today I want to bring in Michael. He is the developer from Tainted Pact Games, and he is the creator of one of my favorite indie PC games. It was actually one of my first horror PC games because I'm a console gamer most of my life and invested in a PC last year for the first time. And the first game I played was Massacre at the Marsh. So, welcome, Michael. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Benny, thanks for having me, man. And thanks for checking out Massacre. I'm glad you liked it so much.
Thank you. No, I got to tell you, I am getting old, so my wrists aren't as good as they used to be. So having to play with a keyboard and mouse was a struggle. But the fact that I loved the game so much that I toughed through the arthritis and the pain was just awesome. It was well worth it. And I mentioned to you offline that I talked about it on a couple of shows I was a guest on, and we've talked about it on here a bit too. So I'm grateful to have you here to talk about that game, potentially, other stuff that you've done, something that you might be working on that we might know about on social media. But if you'd like, if you can let our guests know a little bit about you, as far as like how long you've been maybe developing the games and maybe your favorite horror movie.
Yeah, sure. It's probably been about 2.5 years now since I've really taken game development like on a more serious note. I was always I went to school for computer science, got my bachelor's. But before that, I was playing music. I was always a musician. And I grew up playing music, so I didn't really take game dev too serious until about a couple years ago when I kind of shifted out of the whole music scene and got into game dev. Um, but you know, uh, I always had a huge attraction towards horror in general. So it made sense for me to you know start making indie horror games. Um, but yeah, I mean, there was always an attraction towards it because I watched plenty of YouTubers and streamers playing horror games and stuff like that, and I was like, man, I feel like I could make some games like this, and I just you know got into it and did it, and then next thing I know, Queso's playing my game. It's got
Pretty
like
pretty
millions of
remarkable.
views on YouTube and stuff like that. So it's a trip a little bit, but it's pretty cool.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but if I had to pick my favorite horror movie, oof,
Tough, right? I mean, there's so many subgenres alone, but let alone
yeah,
eras and
totally.
I how about we can even do like favorite horror genre. I mean, I feel like I might know, but I could be wrong,
I mean,
based
it's
on your
got to be
games.
like classic slashers, Like I just love classic slasher movies. But like I really, really, really like the original Hellraiser, and even the sequel is really good too. You know, um, but I don't know. It's just something to like that whole vibe and like the whole universe and Hellraiser just is like so out of this world. And just like the level of gore and just I don't know. I just remember the first time seeing it, just like really like freaked me out. I was just a kid when I saw it. And it just same thing with the first. You know what? It's kind of a tie, to be honest. It's probably a tie between Hellraiser and then the original It movie that
Okay.
was like a mini series in the 90s.
Yes. Yes.
That was like a two-part series. Not the second part so much, but that first part where they're kids.
Right.
Um, it's just like it lives in my head. as being absolutely terrifying because when I saw it, I was a little kid,
Right.
you know. So I just remember like seeing the shower scene and the bathroom scene where like the sink is puking up blood and he's talking to I forgot her name, but the female character. Um, and I just remember for like months after that, I was terrified to use the bathroom.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
I think we all have that traumatic experience, like being fans of horror. There is probably that one canon event that triggered, our hearts to race, but elevated the idea of, I think I like this, even though it's terrifying. And I think that's a great one to pick. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, like the modern Terrifier movies are awesome too, which is the whole reason why I made Massacre is because I was such a huge fan of the Terrifier movies, and I was just like, man, I don't care if people call me out for like ripping off Terrorizer. I'm making
Hey,
this game.
listen, I do feel that your clown definitely had his own unique twist, and I definitely appreciated just the creepiness of him just constantly driving by the theater and just doing the head turn and the smile and then just end up at the gas station. Like it was just such a WTF moment, but it was just so fitting. And like at first I was thinking the same thing. I feel like, like you said, it's you can see the inspiration, but like I feel that
Mhm.
your character definitely resides in a different way with the more obvious tones of the demonic side. And
Yeah.
I definitely really appreciated the parts with like the balloons and stuff. Like just
Oh, totally.
awesome, awesome little teases.
Yeah, lots of little nods in that game for sure. Tons of them.
Yeah, so I know that that was not your first game, right? So
No.
I believe your first game as far as a full release was Terror at Oakhart, correct?
No, there was a game before that, Suffer the Night that had come out.
Okay. Okay,
That
because I saw on
was
the website it was showing it as a demo, so I didn't know if that fully had released.
yeah, that came out April of 2023, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
Yeah,
Terror
so
Oakhart came out like early 2024.
got it. Yeah, because I was just pulling up the itch.io page
Oh
there
yeah,
a quick
so
bit
yeah, on
ago.
itch it's probably because I don't sell my games on itch, I just put the demos on there.
Okay,
So
that makes sense.
but like on the Steam page it has like a more official catalog of the games.
Okay, awesome. No, so obviously, I'll be honest, obviously, Massacre was the first game that I was introduced into your world, but it definitely opened my eyes to checking out Tarot Kart. And then we can talk like current because I know right now your big focus is a Kickstarter that you have launched that
Mhm.
looks like you knocked it out of the park right away, which congratulations to that. I know that
Yeah.
there's still some more time on that, but we could talk a little bit about that if you'd like. So you have Flesh Made Fear. I know that you were on social media very actively talking about the early stages of when you were developing it. The game originally had a different name, I recall, before you had to maybe make a decision to change that. Was that correct?
Yeah, it was slightly different. So Fear Made Flesh, I believe, if I remember correctly. But there was
Yes.
like a board game or something like that that had a similar name or the exact same name, I believe. So we
Okay.
had to change it slightly for so we wouldn't get like
No,
attacked
of course.
by a copyright lawyer or something like that.
Right. I mean, look, it's one of those things where you know it's very similar to play on the words, but obviously they you think about metal bands, like for my thought is like a lot of times like those types of names I resonate with metal bands or
Yeah,
horror movies maybe. So,
yeah,
but no, I mean obviously it's good that you were able to keep the name pretty close. So, let's talk a little about this game versus Mask of the Mirage, which is more of a first person narrative style horror game that kind of plays out like a slasher movie, which I really love that unique take on it. Like that's the big selling point to me when I talk about it is you're literally like playing out a movie and you feel like you have control, and
yeah,
obviously in
yeah,
many moments you don't. But it's really cool how it plays out. So it's one of those like you don't want to talk a lot about it because you want people to experience it. But
yeah.
obviously, with Flesh Made Fear, you went in a different direction and you went more inspirational to PlayStation 1 survival horror. So I would assume we're
Mhm.
talking Resident Evil, Silent Hill, right? Is some of your inspirations?
Correct. Yeah, so with Massacre, I mean, exactly what she said. It's like my whole um, mission with that game was to, create a game that feels like you're literally, playing through a movie, like a slasher horror movie. Um, so there's not really, as far as gameplay goes, there's not really a ton of stuff to do. Um, but like, I really wanted to give players that experience of like being inside their own kind of horror movie. Um,
I mean, you
but
do
what,
get to serve popcorn, so there's always
yeah,
that.
the whole snack bar simulation thing was kind of just like, I know a lot of people, especially streamers and YouTubers, they like, um, like job simulator games for their
Right,
horror games, because it's like doing mundane tasks and they can like stop and talk to their chat and stuff like that. And it's not like
right.
a
No, I thought that was a
super,
cool touch that you added that like as a separate game as well to be able to
yeah,
incorporate that. That was clever.
absolutely. But yeah, it's something super in depth as far as gameplay, so you can kind of just chill out and experience the story. But with Flesh Made Fear, I really wanted to like it. Like when I first got into game dev, the one thing I always wanted to make was like an RE style game, and I never felt like I had the chops to do it as far as actually making the game, as far as programming it and stuff like that, making animations, 3D models, and all that. Um, and all my games up to this point have kind of allowed me to learn the necessary tools to finally like challenge myself to tackle this project and take on a more complicated game like this. And it's just something I've always wanted to do. So it's definitely a very big departure from like my last couple of. All my games have been like really kind of like one shot playthrough kind of games, where you get the experience. There's not really much more to it than that, and then that's it. But with Flesh Made Fear, I'm really trying to make a game that is not only enjoyable to watch, like your favorite streamer or your YouTube personality play, but also something that you'd want to play, yourself, that you'd want to dive into and have a good time playing. Yeah, so that's my goal for this game. And obviously, yeah, the influences for the game. I grew up with, the first original PlayStation Resident Evil games and Silent Hill games. So, yeah, I'm totally trying to recreate that for a modern audience.
Yeah, no, it definitely shows. I mean, you definitely, like I said, even with your previous games, you wear your inspirations on your sleeve, which I don't think is a bad thing personally, because again,
Yeah.
the horror community is one of those communities that we vibe with each other because we know how important the stuff we grew up with was in the horror space, between the movies that maybe we watched that were out before our time, the stuff we grew up with, and even some of the modern stuff, and gaming is one of those things that have just basically elevated the experience because it's inspired so many creators to kind of go back to the stuff that we like you mentioned, the Resident Evil, the Silent Hill, those eras, and like we're getting those games again, like those IPs still exist, we're still getting new versions, but that itch for revisiting what we remember as tense, like we talk about, like the tank controls, the crazy puzzles, the jump scares, but just like the minimalist graphics. So obviously
Right.
there's a different approach with PlayStation 1 versus PlayStation 2, but I definitely like that you kind of, I feel like you blended a little bit of both, because I feel like obviously your graphics are definitely a little more elevated than that traditional pixelated style. So it gives more people, I think, the chance to say, I like that stuff. I don't know if I'd go back. This looks a little more to my fitting of balance between the two, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's definitely like kind of um, shifting between like a PS1 and PS2 style graphics. Like the texture resolutions are definitely a little bit higher than like your PS1 quality stuff, more in line with
Right.
like a PS2. And
Right.
some of the models are a little bit higher poly count that you would find um, in like a PS2. But there's also some really like low res stuff too that would fit really well into a PS1 game. But there's also other things about it that are a little bit more modern, like the shadow casting in the game. You know, it's all done with modern techniques and stuff like that. And the ground fog effects that I'm using in the game, definitely very modern. Um, Even if the textures that are being used within the system that I built for the fog is low res, the actual system itself is straight out of the box for something you'd see in a modern game. You know,
Okay.
so
Yes.
it's like there's like touches of stuff that you would find in a modern game, but also a lot of the older kind of visuals to kind of mix in with it too as well.
Yeah. So ideally, you're not going for like a one-to-one recreation. Like there
Yeah, I'm
are
not a
some
purist.
developers
I'm
that do that.
definitely not a
Right.
purist. Yeah, there's some devs out there that are like totally purist when it comes
Not
to
puppet
doing
combo,
FPS.
right?
Yeah,
Sorry,
I
puppet.
mean, I
Sorry.
love puppet combo games. To be honest, they're great.
No, he
Um,
knows. That's why I said I'll behave. But yeah, no, it's true.
but for example, like I hate vertex snapping, and like I think that looks so ugly, and
Yeah, I
I
get
didn't
that.
want to include it in my my game. But I know a lot of devs are really purist when it comes to some stuff like that, and they have to have it in their game. But at the end of the day, it's my artistic choice.
Absolutely.
So
Well, look, I
if
think the best part about it is because now we have such a variety because you have great devs like yourself that jump between different styles of inspiration with the games. You're making something unique to your own because I feel like again there are just some devs that go one approach versus the other. Puppet Combo goes a lot with the retro, but he's done other stuff as well with
yeah,
like glass staircase and things like that. So there are flexibilities I think with everybody, but I think the biggest challenge that I see from the gamer side as far as like looking into exploring the world of indie horror that pays like homage to the older stuff that we grew up with is a lot of people like want some of that nostalgia but they don't necessarily want the pain points that came with them,
yeah,
so the tank controls are not for everybody, so
mhm.
having that the flexible balance of that, because for me I appreciate it, but sometimes it's just after a while, I'm just like, I'm not used to this.
Yeah.
You're
It's
just your
definitely
brain,
frustrating, to
right?
learn tank controls at first. Um, but I think by the end of the game, most people will be pretty familiar with it. But yeah, you do bring up a solid point for sure.
So I have to ask because obviously, I know that this is part of the promotional side of things, but obviously, if the game continues to grow, which I know it will, is there talks of maybe expanding any of your games to console, physical releases if the demand is there? Is that something that you've thought about at all?
Yeah, so we're trying to get console ports funded with the Kickstarter. I don't know if that's going to happen, but the publisher might go ahead and just do console ports on their own um,
Okay,
if the game sells well enough on PC. Which, um, like, I don't want to toot my own horn or anything like that, but I've never had a game do as well as it is, as fast as it is, um, like Fleshman Fear is doing right now. We're approaching like almost 20,000 wish list on Steam,
wow,
and the game has only been posted for maybe like a month. The demo's been out for like 2.5 weeks, I think.
right. It's
Um,
incredible. Congratulations.
like for example, when Massacre released, and Massacre had like almost a year of collecting wish lists up till release. Um, we barely cracked like 10,000 before release,
Okay,
which is still a really good number for an indie game. You want to
right,
shoot for at least 10K.
right.
This is just like industry stuff that I've heard behind the scenes, and
No, of
from my
course.
experience with releasing various games and stuff like that. When you release a game on Steam, if you want to have it be have any chance of it being potentially successful, you want to have between like 8 to 10 minimum wish list upon your release. So the fact that Flesh Made Fair is already approaching 20,000, and we just announced it like a month ago.
It
We have
speaks to
all
the
this.
quality of the games for sure, I think.
I'm really excited. I'm really excited for this game. It's definitely gonna be my most ambitious and hopefully most successful game yet. We'll see though. We'll
Yeah,
see.
no, I mean, I know you have a long road ahead of you because obviously with development comes a lot of those pain points of, obviously not just creating the game, but eventually polishing it and adding all the elements that make it what that final product is. And um, obviously, right now with the Kickstarter, we have 11 days left. So if anybody is interested, which I really feel if you're watching this show, I think you are. So I definitely will have the link in the description of the show. But again, let's not wait to the last minute. Let's make sure we jump in on there right now. There's a lot of awesome rewards. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that
Yeah,
if that's all right with you.
yeah, definitely.
Um, you have a lot of really unique stuff. Obviously, the basic stuff comes with digital copy of the game, being able to just simply show your support, up to being kind of part of the game. So you've
Mhm.
offered opportunities for people to be zombies and having their name in the game. Like, what made you think about kind of doing a little bit more of a community inclusion with your Kickstarter? Because I know a lot of times the Kickstarters for indie games tend to be more focused on the game itself and like, getting a credit or producer credit, things like that. But obviously, realistically, you're putting more work on yourself, obviously, by
Yeah.
people that are, supporting it, financially. I mean, I think it's a great idea. And I love the fact that you're open to doing that. I was just curious what your thoughts were when it came to picking out like what rewards you wanted to include for such an ambitious title, like you said.
Well, I had quite a few meetings with the publisher, and we kind of were just discussing different things that we could do that wouldn't be extremely difficult to add to the game. And we're kicking around different ideas. But I know that we looked at some other Kickstarters uh, and checked out their rewards, and we're kind of like gauging what we could do, what we couldn't do. I know we looked. I personally looked at the Hollow Body um, Kickstarter, and was like, okay, well, this is what he did. He's a solo dev, and he was able to do these things for his backers. So I'm a solo dev. I should be able to do these things as well. There's no reason why I couldn't, So um, I just look to those, and like I said, having meetings with the publisher and wanting to, include people in the game as much as possible, but not try to do something that's like gonna add a crazy amount of work on my end.
Right. No, that makes sense.
Doing some really kind of like simple but like cool features, like the gravestones or having your corpse littered somewhere in
Yeah, that's
Rotwood,
awesome.
you know,
It's
or
really cool.
even like the higher tier stuff where someone backed to actually help me do like a boss. We're gonna have a meeting in Discord and talk about what he wants to do as far as boss mechanics and stuff like that. So I think it's just a really fun way to, as a developer, to kind of just like bring people into the development process. It's one thing to be a fan of a game and to play a game and something like that. To actually be like part of the development process, I think is really rewarding for a lot of people who may not be into game dev or have any idea how games are made in general. So it's a chance for them to kind of peek behind the curtain a little bit and take part in the process.
Well said. I think that that speaks to something I talk about a lot on the show, which is we just have a lot of love for the indie community, the indie developers. We know how hard you work. We know how hard it is to put something together like you do, and the time that it takes, and the money that it takes. And when you get that engagement, there's nothing like it. As somebody that is
Yeah.
also a musician, I'm sure you remember playing on stage and just that adrenaline of people appreciating your music and vibing and just getting transported. You transport yourself in just that love of what you put your heart into. So, to be able to include people, I think that's a good way to inspire more people to maybe be part of the future of the game world, in a lot of different ways. Because obviously, a lot of people don't realize, but video game development is not just the development of the game. There are so many more elements to go along with that, and
Mhm.
art, music, and design, and just testing, and it goes on and on. And giving people a chance to go behind the scenes a little bit and just seeing what that entails, I think is remarkable. And I think it's a good balance, because again, you're here to raise awareness. Like in my eyes, a Kickstarter, the right way to appreciate a Kickstarter is when you're building that, you're helping building your audience. A lot of
Yeah.
people look at it as I'm raising money. That is a part of that. But if you approach it that way, the campaign wouldn't look the way yours looks. So it definitely speaks to the time that you put into, you know, making it worthwhile for people to invest, not only their money, their time. Because if they're going to invest money, they're going to obviously potentially have to sit with you. And, I really commend you for taking that time to give back, essentially, as a way of thanking people for supporting your game.
Yeah, I mean, it's, at the end of the day, it's all about building a community, and expanding that community. And I love to be transparent with the people who play my games, who appreciate my games. I go on Twitch constantly all the time because I work from home and I'm working on my computer all the time, making my games, and I'll have my second screen open and I'll have like Twitch or YouTube open. But a lot of times I'm in and out of various streamers and just it's talking to them, just chatting with them and their communities, make cracking jokes and stuff like that. I've made a lot of friends just in the indie horror community, so it's great to be a part of that community, and it's great to bring people in, like a lot of the voice actors for for this new game, Flesh Made Fear. They're all Twitch streamers, Every single one of them is a Twitch streamer. I didn't really go the route of like hiring like professional voice actors, just because like I just want to I want to bring people in who are very passionate about the indie horror scene and let them be a part of the the creation process. It's same, and that's the same way that I'm doing my Kickstarter too. Is I just want people to be part of the project, and that's my way of giving back and saying thank you for playing my games, for buying my games, and all that. It's just nice. It's nice to be a part of a community that's so passionate about something, and it's great.
That's awesome. And I would definitely agree with you on that because as somebody that, is involved in various ways with indie development, not necessarily in the game creation side, but um, as somebody that is not, this is not my day job as far as doing music, voice acting, anything like that. But when I'm part of a project, I feel special. I feel like I want to give the best performance in any way. And I think that the type of people that you're bringing in are going to give you that same, because you're giving them that attention, you're giving them that chance to not only, if they want to grow to do something like that, if they just want to do it for fun, I think they're still going to give you the best performance that you get versus, you know, nothing wrong with casting, but it's just that it's a very unique approach that I see a lot of indie developers do because one of the games that I landed was literally just from having a conversation on X.
Yeah,
Perfect example. I don't get to sit on Twitch as much as I'd like to. But sometimes I'll see, an open casting call, but it's not a traditional casting call because casting calls do not go through like a public vein like that. You go into a site that you have to submit and things like that. So,
hmm
I think your approach of kind of engaging with the community and finding talent that you may not have known existed. Sometimes they don't even realize that they exist. Like you're just giving somebody a chance that is like, I just want to be part of it. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's really
Yeah,
awesome.
totally. It's like a lot of these streamers and influencers and stuff like that. They all have they all have pretty unique voices as well, you know. So it's
Right.
just like and like I said, they're super passionate about the indie horror scene. And at the end of the day, like if I had to pick between like a professional voice actor who is just going to do everything by the numbers, that's going to be counting like every word, making sure that they're paid a specific rate based upon how many takes and how many words and stuff like that. And it's like just strictly a business, you know, exchange. I'm paying you for a service, but I obviously I pay all my voice actors, even
Right.
if they're new, But like just having that,
Yeah.
that level, that extra level of passion for the indie horror scene that influencers have, whether it be YouTubers or Twitch
Right.
streamers, something like that, I think just makes it much more worthwhile to work with than somebody that is just there to do a job, which is
Right.
nothing wrong with that. And you can
Yeah. I
get
mean,
some great
it's
performances that
subjective.
way. Yeah.
Right.
But I'm just saying for my case, for me personally,
No, of course. Right. Yeah.
I don't want to sit here and say voice actors, like professional voice actors, are bad or anything. I'm just saying for my specific case, my specific games, I find
Right.
it more enjoyable to work with people who are passionate also about the indie horror scene. You know?
No, I couldn't agree with you more. And like I said, from being on that side of it, I definitely also feel that you're going to get so much more, not just out of the performance, but like they're going to promote it because they care.
Yeah,
So this is like you not talking bad about professional casting. There's a different level of that, and I feel like the indie community is very unique in the sense of they're able to find such unique talent within that spectrum that you don't have to necessarily always look out. I mean, you're going to have situations where you might have a dream cast in mind that you want somebody specific for something, that makes sense. But to have this unique opportunity where you already have a community that's engaging with what you do, and then you're just having conversations about potentially needing some stuff, you're going to have very eager people because they already care about what you're doing. So
yeah,
that's the biggest difference here because I see, there's a lot of voice actors in the world. We're just using that as one
hmm
example, but a lot of conversations that I'll just see in my feed is just, hey, here's my reel. Like, how much? What are your rates? And like it's important because some people that's their job.
yeah,
And I respect that more than people understand. For me, I do it casually because I have a career that I do. So I'm more like you about the experience. If I can be part of something special and I can afford to make the time and we can work it within the budgets and things like that, like it's worth a conversation because I know I'm going to give you more than that guy you might hire for $5,000 that, like you said, is going to do the job. They're on to the next job,
yeah,
So it depends on what you want. There's a place for it, but I think that the indie community doesn't get enough recognition for just having such a tight niche circle. I really do feel it's like a circle at this point. A lot of the indie developers, you guys, I feel like a lot of you know each other. In the horror space, so I think there's a lot of respect with that too. So pretty cool to
yeah.
see.
And like, man, nothing is more frustrating than seeing like a game that's like potentially has good potential to be a good game, and then you hear like AI for voices,
I
And it's like if
was
you would
I was
just
I was wondering if
yeah
we were going to go there.
yeah I was just thinking like it's not even if you would just take like a little bit of extra time and maybe reach out to a few of the people who play these games, they would be more than happy to voice various
Right.
characters in the game, and that's already going to be like miles better than anything that's AI generated, as far as voice acting goes. even though
Yeah.
everybody thinks everything is AI these days. I can't tell you how many times I post something that's not AI, and then everybody's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that's AI." It's just
Yeah.
like
I mean, we're
it's
gonna have the
pretty,
trolls under the bridge there. They're gonna crawl out of nowhere,
and
make a
it's only going to get worse, because
yeah,
AI is only going to get better. And
that's
it's
it.
going to get to a point where you literally are not going to be able to tell a difference anymore.
Yeah,
And
it's a scary thought, but
it
you know,
is, it is.
it's nice that there are people like you that care about that balance, because at the end of the day, look, it's a technology that's not going anywhere.
Hmm.
It is pretty much like digital photography. Think about when digital photography came out. We used to have places we used to go to develop film.
Yeah,
They pretty much don't exist anymore.
yeah.
But did that world disappear? No. Like there's places for everything. And I think that when it comes to creative, the biggest challenge here is people have situations where they're limited in their knowledge or their experience
Hmm.
and need that help. So like I'm a guy that is firm believer of just understanding both spectrums of what's happening here. Can it be a useful tool? Absolutely. Should people rely on it to create an entire video game? Like you can do it. That's the scary part. um the problem is how people take that project and say, hey, I made this. you
Yeah,
know where's the
yeah.
context of, you wrote a couple of lines and it built a script and it did it for you. Like we all have ideas, right? The hardest part, I'm going to give a shout out to my friend TS Luther, who's helping me co-write a comic book right now. He said these words and they were so important. He said everybody has ideas. The hardest part is to get your hands down and writing it down and
Yeah,
actually make it real. Like everybody has an idea, but it's what you're doing with that idea if you're actually making it come to reality. So, you know,
yeah,
I love the idea of just typing out something and just getting a perception of what I see. But I'm like, that's Pandora's box,
right,
and that's
right.
that's a gateway that can just it'll also muddy your idea, I think, creatively. So I try to
Yeah,
stay away,
yeah.
realistically.
At the end of the day, I try to look at it like this. Like, I think that the point you made about saying, like, uh typing in a few prompts and then saying, like, "Oh, this is I made this," obviously is not good. It's not good at all. But I think AI can be helpful for things like prototyping. You know,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
I personally use it for, like, writing tools. Like, I'll write out a sentence and stuff like that, and then I'll run it through Grammarly or something like that to clean it up.
Right.
And then I'll ask Grammarly, like, "Okay, thanks for cleaning up my sentence. Can you also give me a few other examples of how I could have rewritten the sentence?" You know? And
Yeah.
then I'll have a couple different things to pull from, and then I can pick the final sentence that I think would be best.
Right.
But as far as, like, art goes, or like AI generated music, AI generated models, AI generated computer code,
Right.
those I think should be strictly relegated to prototyping your game, to make something fast and dirty, to get ideas across, to get
Right.
concepts across, to help you create something quickly that you can use as a concept to flesh out a finished product. There's nothing wrong with that. That's like, you wouldn't get mad at a musician, for example, if he didn't make his guitar, right? Because at the end of the day, he's using the guitar to make music, right?
Right.
It's kind
It's
of
true.
it's kind of like the same way with AI. It's like, yeah, you're using it as a tool to get an end result, but the end result should be something you made, not just
Exactly.
the tool that you're
Right.
using, right?
It's like all the
It's
trailers
a
that you've
it's
seen,
a
all the
slippery
fake
slope,
trailers.
because you want to sit there and be like, "Oh man, look at all these cool things I can do with just typing in text," but then
Yes.
you lose all your creative.
Yeah.
You're not really creating something. just telling something to create something for you.
Right.
So it's slippery. Like I said, slippery slope.
It's just it's subjective, but I think that like in the creative space, we just have to be mindful. We have to be understanding of
Yeah.
the work that goes into anything that we're all creating. You know, like you said, it's not just art; it's every aspect. I think it exists in just about anything. Like I feel like AI is going to be in the supermarkets. You know, at
Yeah.
some point, if it's not already. You know, I could have. It might actually be. I was at the New York Toy Fair in New York City last week, and they have like a Amazon like little area. Like it may not be AI, but like you literally just scan your phone. It opens the little gate. You walk in. You pick out whatever you want to buy. You don't scan anything, and then you just walk out. So it and like you literally just you get a bill after. It's just the weirdest thing. I know that there's probably cameras, but I'm assuming that there's AI prompts that are linking it to, you know, there's not somebody saying, "Oh, this guy's grabbing the bag of chips." This guy, you know, like it's not 10 years ago that's what it would have been, you know.
Hmm.
So, you know, when you think about that aspect of it, it makes sense. I think many jobs use it, but
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
you
I don't
raise a
think
good point.
I don't think you should be charging or selling anything that has that's been
That's
AI
the key.
generated. You know.
Yeah, like think
So
about
as far as game,
conventions.
yeah, if I'm thinking game dev, like if you're gonna sell a product, if you're asking for money for a product, then
It should be around.
you need to create that product. It can't be something that you just slop together with a bunch of AI assets.
Agreed.
Unfortunately, I see that a lot in the indie course and indie games in general. I think, and
Yeah,
it's a little concerning because I think it's only going to get worse because people are just they don't want to take the time to learn how to do
right.
things properly, so they just cut corners.
I
And
mean,
then
there's a lot of bloatware out there. You know,
yeah,
as you know,
yeah,
PC is the biggest place for it, but like you see it in consoles now. You see
mhm,
some weird stuff out there, man, and you can tell. Like there's some weird game that somebody posted a trailer for, and I had to click the link where it actually took you to the PlayStation store, and it was like some Elden Ring, Dark Souls type of ripoff, but it was like something Bollywood themed, and like the character like just passes gas, and like the trailer just had every audible meme from like you know yeet and you know like every little skibbity toilet, like every word was in the video, and you could just tell that they're just stealing assets and just utilizing prompts to create whatever the hell this game is supposed to be. But
yeah,
it got through the process. So that's the other side of it is, as you know, when you're going through, getting your game to Steam and eventually, going into the platforms, it goes through a rigorous process to get approved,
yeah.
So
But they don't care,
yeah,
on their they just want the only thing Steam cares about is if there is a beginning and an end to your game. Essentially, it's like, can I press play and can I get to the end of the game? If those two things can be achieved, you can pretty much put it up on Steam if you pay the application fee.
interesting, interesting. Well, we could just throw out my thought out the window. That's fine.
I'm not 100% sure as far as like the PlayStation store goes or like the Xbox store. As far as
I,
Steam goes,
yeah,
like as long as you can start
right.
your game and finish your game, then like they're probably going to approve it.
I mean, when you think about the vast library, like you could type in one word and there's probably like 150,000 games for just that one word
Yeah,
in
I
the
mean, there is some sketchy stuff on Steam. I'll tell you what, man. Like,
yeah.
ever since they got rid of Project Greenlight, which was like, so like back in the day, I don't know if you know what Project Greenlight was, but it
Mm-mm.
was like there before you couldn't just like buy an application fee
Okay.
or pay an application fee and upload your game to Steam. Before there was like a process of approval um, where you would upload like a demo and Steam themselves would either decide or not decide to greenlight your project essentially and allow it to
Yeah.
be on their app.
Mm,
it was much more rigorous. And usually, you had to have some kind of community backing on your demo about people
okay,
playing it, and if it had enough hype or generated enough buzz, then they would greenlight it, and then you could sell it on Steam. But
got it.
they,
Okay,
they did away with all that. They're just like, you pay
Wild
this
Wild
one time,
West.
yeah, you pay this one time fee, and you can upload your game.
Interesting.
Which isn't at the end of the day isn't really a big deal because most of these AI games just get lost in the mix
Exactly.
anyway. And if you make something of quality, people are going to notice that, and they're going to pick up on that, and your
Right.
game's going to get noticed anyways. So it's not really at the end of the day.
Right.
It's only hurting the consumer really because a lot of people get tricked into buying
Right.
AI slop, and then they end up losing a
Well,
couple
especially if
bucks.
it's all back rooms, right?
Right. Oh, there's so many backroom games.
So
It's
many.
crazy. Same
I
thing
mean,
with I
that's
call
a
them
big
I call
streaming
them
thing.
spot the difference games, but I guess you call them like anomaly games. It's
Okay.
like they're like being absolutely flooded with anomaly games lately. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy times, but again, it's awesome to see the success that you're having so far. I do wish you continued growth with the game, and obviously, I look forward to the future releases that you do once this is released. We are looking at around a Halloween time as a goal right now, as far as I see from the Kickstarter.
Yeah. Yeah, we're
Okay.
shooting for Halloween, hopefully. It might be early November though.
Okay.
We haven't really set a date set in stone yet.
Right.
Kind of just because another thing you want to consider about releasing a game on Steam, especially, is like the potential competition around your release.
Yes, for sure.
If if a new Resident Evil or something or a new Silent Hill is
Right.
coming out, like on the
You don't
last
want to get
week of
outshot.
yeah, I don't want to like go up against that, right?
For sure, for sure. Well, I definitely will say I think that I've seen how the community has embraced your games. I see like Residents of Evil, like they post and play it, and I think there's a lot of good things to come. For your game once it's released. A lot of people playing the demo. I wanted to ask you one last thing because I know it's getting late, but you are doing the music because I know you are a musician, as we talked about. I was just curious as
Mhm.
far as the music. Are you going to be doing all the music for the game? Are you bringing in other artists, or out of curiosity?
I'll probably be doing like 99% of the music. One thing I've considered, like, I've kind of been like playing around with this idea in my head is like I want to have like a credit song that has like a really kind of like synth wavy vibe. Um, and I've been thinking about maybe like looking for someone to do like a crazy like synth wavy guitar solo over it. So I might bring someone to do that in because I'm not really a soloist. I've always
Okay,
been a rhythm guy, like bass or rhythm
same
guitar.
here.
Never really
rhythm,
been like,
rhythm on everything, but yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome.
never really been like a soloist. So it's not really like my specialty. So if I was to do something like that for the credit song at the end of the game, I think it would be fun to bring in like maybe like a professional guitar player. I know plenty of guitar players, but they all play metal.
Right.
I really want to find someone who can do like a like a super cheesy cock rock solo. You know what I'm talking about?
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I know.
like straight out of the '80s kind of thing.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. I mean, the first thing I was thinking is like the ending credits of Resident Evil 2 when you had the
Exactly. Yeah. It's just
total
like
cock rock.
totally corny, over the top shit. I'm all
Oh,
about
that's awesome.
that.
Well, I look forward to hearing that. I think that'll be really cool.
Yeah.
But with the other games, one last thing is just have you done the music for the previous games as well?
I did all the music for Massacre, and I did all the music for Terra Oakheart.
Okay,
For Stuff for the Night, I only did a couple of tracks on that, and then I think the rest of it was just like royalty free, kind of like store bought music
got it,
from like the asset store. Because
got it.
back
Okay,
then, like I wasn't um, as I didn't have like the same amount of tools as I had now. So
makes sense.
I was only able to make a couple of tracks for that game.
Okay,
But everything after that, yeah, it's all been me.
I mean, you are a man of many talents, which is awesome. As I relate and I appreciate because I love everything that you've done so far, and I really look forward to getting to play more beyond the demo. So again, we will definitely be talking more about the game as we get closer to release. But Michael, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you hanging out and sharing all this awesome news and knowledge with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Benny. I look forward to sharing more with the community and sharing more with you. And yeah, I look forward to releasing the game and you know
Awesome.
having a good time. Thanks for having me
Awesome.
again, man. I appreciate it.
No, pleasure. You're welcome anytime. If we any crazy news comes up you want to talk about it, be happy to have you. It's been a
And
pleasure.
I know that you've mentioned that you wanted to maybe do some voice work in Flesh May Fear, and all the roles at the moment are pretty much booked. But there might be something that pops up that I could possibly get you in there for. So definitely keep
Greatly
you in
appreciate
mind.
it. No, thank you so much. Appreciate you. And yeah, we'll stay in touch either way. But thank you everybody for hanging out. Really appreciate your time and hope everybody has a great day. And remember, take care and have fun.